So anyway, I'm glad we're back. Glad you're back. So we're going to spend some time talking about Jesus. Jesus. So I'll share with you a number of years back. A gal was sharing, we were in our small group here, Bible study, and she was sharing she had gone to a church where they were, I don't know, a Christian church, but they were kind of stuck in some of the things that they were doing. They were stuck in the Old Testament, I guess you would say, and we're still having all feasts and what have you, just kind of in a rut. Anyway, God was working in that church and started to enlighten some of the pastors about what Scripture said and the grace that we have in the New Testament, and that some of those things don't apply. So anyway, the church ended up doing a split, as sometimes happen. Meanwhile, as they were learning more about Jesus, they were talking more about Jesus. And so they were in some women's group of some kind, and they're discussing Jesus. And one of the women that had been in the church a long time remarked, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus, that's all we ever talk about." So when my friend shared that, I was just touched by that. I was like, that's it. That's the way we need to be. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. So anyway, got to switch glasses. Sorry, I'm going to get those. I'm going to buy. I can't see you anymore. I just can't see you anymore, Audrey. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time talking about the character of Jesus, the character of Christ, and we're going to talk about what that means in friendships, of what these things mean. I don't know if I'm going to get through all of them. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see. So, but we're going to talk about different traits that apply to Jesus. So we know that Jesus loved us, right? How do we know? Because the Bible tells us so. How else do we know? How else do we know that Jesus loved us? He died for us. He died for us. He rose for us, yes. So we know that he loved us. So we can, with our friends, we can love our friends. And what that looks like can be different depending on the friends, depending on the relationships. But it's taking the initiative to meet their needs without specifically expecting anything in return. Loving them, loving them. Okay, so that was an attribute that Jesus certainly had, and we saw that. Okay, here's another one, joy. Jesus had joy. Do we think about him having joy often? Do we think that he was joyous? I don't know. His joy is our strength. But when I read about, I don't know, knowing he was going to die, I don't know, maybe, I think it's me. When I'm reading about it, it's like, it's sad. He's only going to be here. He's only going to have 3 years of ministry. Then he's going to die. That is sad to me. So I don't always feel his joy when I'm studying. I don't. But he did have joy and contentment with knowing that he was doing exactly what God wanted him to do. And there are times where I certainly see that he had a sense of humor. I certainly see that. So joy is something that we touched on that a little bit before. With friends, are we being joyous with our friends? Or are we, this is happening. This is what the kids are doing now, and they want money, and is that how we are? And not that we should share our hearts, right? We talked about that. We should share our hearts with our friends. But are we also letting the joy that we have in Jesus come up to our faces, right? Like, hey, I'm happy to see you, and demonstrating that joy with our friends. And not when it's inappropriate, Not if they're struggling with something, then you're not looking like an idiot. Oh, hey, that's great. No, not talking about that. Just saying, that, we should have joy. We have the Spirit of God in us. We should have joy. Peace. This was something Jesus did have. We saw him have peace through some tough times. Crazy stuff going on, and he was just at peace with it, Imagine all those 5,000, which was actually more like probably 13,000, 14,000 people needing food. He's like, you give them something to eat. Peace, that is peace. It's just not stressed. He wasn't anxious. He had a tremendous amount of peace as he walked through his ministry. So with our friends, what does that look like? What does that look like if we're going to have peace, if we're going to be at peace? Well, it could be similar things. Maybe there's stuff going on in the world for them, for you, for your friend. That stuff's happening. But maybe we're not going to be stoking the fire, if you will. They're agitated about something, and we want to be agitated with them because they're our friends. So we're gonna be agitated with you, and then they get more agitated, and you get more agitated. Is that just me? Maybe some peace of like, all right, sister, let me just pray with you. Let me pray with you. We're both, I'm angry for you. I can be angry with my friends. I am sometimes. I see things that happen to them, and I'm not happy about it. And that's okay, but maybe we just need to pray together about it. Let's have some peace. Peace. Jesus was a man of peace. Patience. Oh. Was Jesus patient? Man, those guys that he ran with, right? Can you just stay awake? Can you just come on? Again, you're sleeping. But still, he was patient with them. He was patient with them. So what does that look like for us with our friendships? If we're going to be patient with our friends maybe they're late all the time. Maybe they're the late people, right? Anybody get agitated with the late people? I do. I do. I get agitated with late people. But, patience. Patience. Everybody's time clock doesn't run the same way. Have you noticed that? Everybody's internal time clock. Everybody kind of has their own. When we first moved up here, we came from Southern California. Anywhere you went was, an hour drive. It didn't matter where you were going. It was an hour to get there. So when we first moved up here, everywhere we went, we left an hour early. We did. We lived in Mound House. We'd go to Carson. We'd leave an hour early to get to something in Carson. It took us a couple of years to realize, we only don't need to leave until 10 till. And we'll still be early. It took us years. But anyway, everybody has their own time. So patience with our friends of whatever those things are. What if they're grieving? What if they're grieving? Are we going to be impatient with them of, hurry up, you've been grieving long enough? Patience with our friends. We can do that. Jesus did that. He was patient with his friends, certainly. He really was. And so we can demonstrate that as well. Kindness. Being kind. That is, we can be kind when it's not necessary. We can be kind. We can be kind to our friends if they're doing something toward us that is unkind. But we can be kind in return if they're our friends, right? Or if it's one of our sisters in the Lord. Because we are not only friends, we are sisters, as Brittany mentioned earlier. We are sisters as well. So we can be kind to one another as having a loving attitude towards them, thinking the best instead of the worst. not lending negative thoughts to their behaviors, but instead giving them the benefit of the doubt. The benefit of the doubt. Assume that whatever they were doing, that they had good intentions. Assume they had good intentions. I'm a little cynical. I am. And, you know, I oftentimes, I think the worst of stuff. We're raising our children. I always thought the worst of them. Norm was like, why do you always, I don't know, because, well, I was a wild child. I misbehaved as a child. And so when I'm raising my own children, I'm assuming they are perfectly capable to do exactly the same things I did when I was a child. Norm actually said to me one time, honey, they're not you. They're not you. That's right. I forget. They're actually good kids. But they didn't get away with nothing. Didn't get away. Benefit of the doubt. Goodness. That Jesus was good. He was always good. He was good. He had integrity, honesty, compassion toward others, right? And he did the right thing. No matter what happened, he did the right thing. He was exhausted. And here they came wanting to be healed. Here they came. And he was like, all right, I'm going to start healing him. I'm going to lay hands on him. I'm going to start healing him. Always did the right thing. Goodness. We talked about faithfulness. Jesus was faithful. He was faithful to God. He was faithful to his friends. He was faithful to us. We talked about that a little bit already. Gentleness. Jesus was gentle most of the time. Once or twice, he might not have been so gentle when it was appropriate. Yes. However, he was gentle. He was gentle. He was gentle with the way he spoke to people. The woman at the well. Remember how gentle he was with her? Boy, that wasn't necessary. Well, he wasn't supposed to be talking to her in the first place. But he did. Gentleness. So, can we be gentle with our friends, which is show calmness and tenderness when we're meeting their needs. Tenderness. Be gentle with them. Especially if they're hurting, but even if they're not, to be gentle. Those are things we can do. Self-control. Was Jesus self-controlled? Yeah. The time when they were trying to interview him to get him to speak up so that, I think it was Herod, was trying to get him to speak, and he was like, he was done. He knew he was going to the cross. He wasn't talking anymore. He wasn't defending himself anymore. Self-control. Discipline and restraint with obedience to God. Obedience to God, but self-control. Now, self-control can be in a number of ways. Tough one for some of us is this self-control right here. This right here. The mouth. Stuff that's coming out. Stuff we're saying. It is untamable. Self-control. Discipline and self-control. Jesus certainly demonstrated forgiveness in the biggest way of giving his life for us, because we've been forgiven. And that allows us to forgive other people, to forgive other folks for insignificant things that are done, or even significant things. Do friends hurt each other? No. They do. Not intentionally. Right. Right. We love our friends, but do we hurt one another? Sure. Sure, we do. Yeah. Unintentionally. Forgiveness allows us to not be resentful of others and to ignore wrongs so that we can heal relationships, so that we can heal expressing Christ's love to one another. So forgiveness is important. We can forgive our friends. And we can ask their forgiveness too. If it's us, if we've done something, we can ask them to forgive us as well. And we just have to know, if you have the Spirit of God in you, and your friend has the Spirit of God in them, how could you not reconcile and be at peace with one another? You have God's Spirit in you, and they do. Of course you can be at peace. Of course you can find peace. There isn't any room in our family for being, well, I just hate that other Christian woman over there, and I'm never speaking to her again. There's no room in our family for that. That obnoxious Myrna. Jeez. No. Humility. Jesus was humble. He was humble. He had come to do what the Father had asked him to do, and he humbly did it. And humility minimizes arrogance and removes pride if we're humble. So we have a fallen nature and tend to think we're better than we are. And we need to make sure that we're not lifting ourselves up above God or anyone else as well. Humbleness enables us to be teachable. We can hear from others. And we can have an attitude of submission and servanthood and remember how Christ served us. And in doing so, and we also can accept criticism, can't we? We're not diminished. We're not diminished if someone has a hard word for us, which we'll talk about later this afternoon. But we're not going to be diminished if one of our sisters in Christ says, hey, lovingly, I got a concern over whatever, something you said, something you did. Are we diminished because they're sharing that with us? No, not at all. We can be humble. Can you pray with me right now? You're so right. That is exactly what I did. Can we pray? Would you pray with me? Right? Okay, fairness. Was Jesus fair? Jesus was. And fairness sees the situation from a viewpoint of each person involved, not just one side. It seeks the best, just, equitable solution, even if it hurts us. So we can be fair. Is life fair? No! No, of course not. Of course it's not. Not at all. However, we can try to be fair in whatever we're doing. When we're dealing with our friends, we can be fair. Doing the best, doing what's best. Doing what's best. Let's do what's best. Courage. Did Jesus have courage? He did. He did. In courage, we can realize that God has given us strength. He's given it, the Spirit in us, that there is a strength there to face situations or trials that God has given it. And we know that God is in control, and he who is in me is greater than, yes, he who is in me is greater. I can be courageous. I can be courageous to speak boldly to my friends. I can have courage to face things. I can have courage to, we oftentimes wonder what we should say if they're struggling with something, and we overthink it. Well, if I say this, then they might think this, and if I say that, they might think that, and I might say that. But you know what? We have the Spirit in us. Let's put it to prayer. Let's let the Spirit speak the words through us. We'll let the Spirit, let the words come out. That ever happened to you? You're praying about something, somebody's talking to you, and you're praying because you don't know what to do, and all of a sudden you're saying stuff you didn't even have the thought, and the words are coming out of you. Has that ever happened to you? Well, that's God talking there. That I never would have said that. I know. I wouldn't have done that because we have the Spirit in us. We can rely on Him, but we can have courage. We can have courage. Also, we touched on before honesty and truthfulness, being straight and honest with people. Sometimes I think of it as being transparent, and sometimes we use that word to demonstrate. I really myself work at transparency, and to me it's like if you don't ask what's going on, you're not going to know what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, you might think all kinds of crazy crap in your head about what's going on. At least I do. Oh, this is happening, and this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. You know what transparency is? Transparency is, well, let's just go ask. And go over and ask, hey, was it, did you, because you know what? It's all that crazy stuff, it's always wrong. It's always wrong. It isn't ever what I thought was, what crazy stuff I'm dreaming up about. No, that's not what's happening. But if we don't ask, we can hold on to those things that are, is it just me? No? Okay. Honesty and truthfulness, being transparent, then you're not hiding anything. You're not hiding these strange negative thoughts you have in your head. Right? Honest and transparent. Going, hey, this happened. I was wondering, was that this or was that that or what was going on with that? I didn't know. You're not attacking anybody, right? You're just asking for clarification. They give you clarification. Yeah, I was da-da-da-da-da. There's no reason for me to be upset. And they did not have ill intent. They didn't have ill intent. That's me in my head. Okay. We did talk already about being dependable and reliable and trustworthy with friends, and that's important. That we're where we are when we say we are going to be there, or if we're not going to make it, we're texting or calling and not leaving them hanging out somewhere waiting for us if it's something we're unable to do. Gratitude. Was Jesus grateful? He was grateful. He was. And gratitude is an attitude of being thankful even when we don't see what we have. We're it's just being grateful. It's an aspect of worship, expressing to God and others how they benefited our lives by showing their support and benevolence to us. So gratitude, and with our friends, do we express to them how grateful we are to have them as friends? Are those words that we use with our friends? And, you can know it. Oh, I know she's grateful to have me. I know she is. But gosh, what does it do to our hearts to hear it? To have somebody say that, how that touches us, that they're grateful for us. And to say that to our friends, I am grateful for you. I am grateful to have you in my life for whatever reason. You bring joy to my life. You make me think about things. You're crazy. Whatever. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that craziness. I'm grateful for it. It brings me joy. Responsibility, again, that's so similar with dependability and faithfulness. Responsibility is to know and do what God and others expect. That's being responsible. And again, with our friends, we touched on that already, of just making sure that if we say we're doing something, we're doing it. Doesn't mean things don't come up. Of course stuff comes up, but just generally. Contentment. Jesus was content. Content, knowing that horrible death that he was going to experience, and he was content. So we must have no reason to be content then. None, right? None. It's the attitude of accepting whatever God provides for us, whatever it is, and being happy with it. Doesn't mean that you can't want other things, but there's a difference. With I am contented with what I have, I still want to buy an RV. I'm content without it. I don't have to have it. I still want to buy one. I think it's too big. I think we already talked about that. Contentment is not seeking what we don't need just for gratification purposes. Just for gratification purposes. And doesn't find happiness in shallow things in life. So contentment, now with friends, what would that look like? Contentment with friends, being contented with your friends. A couple sides to that. One is, of course, material things and your life in general. Be contented with your life in general, because then you're displaying that to your friend. Also, help your friend for them to be contented. Help them. Speak with them. Speak words of encouragement to them. You know, you have this and you have that, and you can be contented with those things. Help them also be contented. Not being like, oh, you need to buy that pair of shoes. you need to buy those right now. I know they're $150, but I know you're broke. You got to have those shoes. Help them be contented. I love those shoes on you. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a picture of them. You're going to put those right back on the rack because you ain't got the money, sister. I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to send it to you. Contentment. Help them be content with their lives and what they have, and being contented with our own. Generosity. Jesus was generous. He certainly was. Gave his life for us. That's about as generous. That is as generous as you can get. So he certainly was generous with us. Generosity allows us to give to others because God has given abundantly to us. We are so spoiled by God. I think we're all his favorite. I know I am. It's the wise use of stewardship and the attitude that everything I have belongs to God, and knowing that we are caretakers for his purpose. We are caretakers of whatever he gives us, large, small, whatever it is, we are taking care of it for him. It's okay for us to enjoy it, as long as we are not enjoying it with a lack of generosity to others. Now, what does generosity look like with friends? I can tell you that. I have a girlfriend that bought me a red handbag purse. Red, beautiful red, because she knew I had a pair of red shoes. I got this for you. Are you insane? Why would you do that? Generosity. She wanted to start running. I like to run. I'm on track. I'm doing it again. I started running when I was 24, the first time. Ran for many, many years, and then from then till now, there's been seasons where Norm and I ran an awful lot. We ran half marathons, 10Ks, stuff. Anyway, I'm starting it again because I'm going to retire, so I'm going to have time. I haven't had time for a couple years. So I'm starting running again. So my girlfriend says she wants to run. I was like, oh, I am buying you a pair of shoes. Drove her up to Reno to the running store. It's like, if you're going to run, you got to have good shoes. You can't hurt your back, your knees, you know. She's a little younger than me, but, you know, you got to protect all that stuff. Buy her some shoes. Generosity. Generosity with your friends. And it doesn't mean you have to spend money on them either. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be money. You can be generous with your time. You can be generous with your attention. There's different types, many different ways you can be generous with your friends. Okay. Purity and holiness. that's being set apart for God's use. Doesn't allow us to be contaminated or to interfere with others in either our growth and relationship in Christ or theirs. Okay? So what does that mean? That means the girls are lifting one another up, right? Lifting one another up. We're walking with Jesus. We're walking with Jesus. We're walking with Jesus. She's like, I don't want to walk with Jesus for a while. Nope. Come on, sister. We're walking with Jesus. Working together, purity and holiness. Helping one another not get off track. Helping one another not, jump off into stuff that we know it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for me. Let's together be holy and be pure. Well, let's walk together in this. Encouragement. Jesus certainly was an encourager. He encouraged many people in his life, his short life. And encouragement will lift, support, and help others, all from God's perspective. Encouraging from God's perspective. And there's a difference there of encouraging them to do the right thing, which is not to spend $150 on the shoes, or encouraging them to do the wrong thing. Spend the money, what do you care? Divorce that guy, loser. We want to encourage to more godly behaviors. We want to encourage our friends from God's perspective and encourage them. And boy, that's a good word to hear too, isn't it? You ever have a sister come alongside and give you a word? It just, yes, that is what God wants me to do. That is it. So good encouragement from God's perspective. Availability. Was Jesus available to people? We already touched on that when he was so exhausted, and then he said, well, all right, just bring them, I'll heal them. I'll heal them. Availability. Being willing to adjust our schedule. I am so looking forward to retirement. Ladies, I am telling you, work has been getting in my way for many years. Getting in my way. And 5 days. 5 days. 4 work days, because Tuesday I'm off because I'm here for Bible study. So 4 work days. 5 days, ladies, and then I'm done. Being willing to adjust your own schedule and plans to fit desires of God and of others. Being available. Okay, so I'll share with you all. Sandy always asked me to work in children's ministry. And I always tell her the same thing. If I work in children's ministry, some of those kids are going to go home and tell their parents some things. They're going to be calling CPS and the sheriff's department. People are going to be coming out here. That is not what we're going to do. That is not what we're going to do. I'd have them all lined up on the wall in nose jail. Nose jail. What are all those kids doing? First time I ever saw kids in nose jail, my husband and I and our children were camping and up at a lake, and there was a family there with many children. I'm thinking 5. I'm thinking they had 5 kids, and they had a big truck that, I don't know what was on the truck. There was something on the side of the truck, but they had a big truck. And we're driving by, us and the kids in the back, and I look over, and there's the kids, and they are like this. Bump, 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 bump. Standing against that truck. We drove by. We looked at that. I was like, oh, nose jail. They're in nose jail. Nose jail. So I always put my grandkids in nose jail. Poor little Brianna. One afternoon, some of you have met her. One afternoon, she's grown now. She had this big dark spot on her forehead. I was like, honey, what do you got on your forehead? Well, she had spent so much time in nose jail that day, she had rubbed her head dirty. Okay. Where were we? Availability. It reflects God's priorities, so we're always available to Him and others when we're serving. And being available for our friends, being available for them of, again, things change. I can't do this. Let's do it at this time. Sure. It's so funny when you're working all the time. Praise you, Jesus. When you're working all the time and you want to hang out with your friends, it's like you can't just do it on the spur of the moment. It's like, I'm sorry, let me get the calendar out. Let me see what's going on. Oh, I got 3 weeks? No, I'm not good that weekend. We're with family. 4 weeks? What do you got? And it's amazing when a friend calls and it's Friday when you're working going, hey, you guys busy tonight? And to be like, no, let's do something. Just hardly ever happens. Availability. Attentiveness. Jesus was certainly attentive to everyone he came in contact with, had conversations, and not just that he had conversations with them. This is what I picture. Eye to eye. Don't you picture that with him? Everybody he's talking to. He's talking to Peter right in the eye. Talking to him right in the eye. That's the way I picture Jesus. Attentiveness. Recognizes the value of others. Respect, courtesy, total concentration. I am listening to you. I'm listening to what you are saying. Attentiveness. It means paying attention to others, not just listening to our own needs and desires. And in today's world, we have phones. Mine's on the table. We have phones. Yeah. Have conversations while we're texting. And, we allow it with one another, too. We allow it. Sometimes it's like, all right, I'll wait till you're done. It's one of the things, I work in technology. I have for my career. I work in IT. And so I'm not particularly intimidated by technology, as poor Sister Steph. But I'm not intimidated by it. I think that there are wonderful, wonderful things about technology. There are things that I'm just so pleased with, some new thing that they can do that it's really wonderful. But there's a lot of it I do not like. I do not like the separation and isolation that technology is causing with people. And I think we have yet to see just how bad that's going to get. Excuse me? Slow fees. Yeah, I heard about that. Slow fees. It's a new feature in the new iPhones that are coming out that have the 3 eyeballs on them. Slow fee. You can do a slow motion selfie. Slow-mo selfie. I don't know. I don't mind that so much. I am more concerned, again, about people isolating themselves and not, really not having relationships with people. I'm worried about that having to do with technology. I'm worried about children not caring whether they learn cursive because of technology. I'm worried about that. How are they going to read the documents? I saw some meme or something said, yeah, but someday we'll be the ones, it'll be a secret language between us and they won't know what it is. Just write in cursive. There's some things about technology I don't care for. We certainly know we have no privacy, and that's not coming back. It's not coming back. It's just the way it is. It's been that way for a long time. My mom was a conspiracy theorist. So she worked at the Pentagon when she was young, so she may have known some stuff. She worked at the Pentagon, but she was always saying, they're listening to us. They're not, they're tracking us, and she was always worried about our rights, being violated and stuff. Well, man, she was right. She was right. So, there's some things I don't like about it. But, the attentiveness, if you're chatting with your girlfriends, and I don't mean like every time. Sometimes you got to check a message. Sometimes you got to take a call. Those things happen. But when you're like hanging out together, turn it off. Turn it off and just hang with your girlfriends. Just be with them. When you go to your lunch, leave the phones in your purse. Mute those ringers. When you go to the movies, people in the movies on their phones. What is up with that? Well, driving their cars, right? Attentiveness. Okay, compassion. We touched on this a little bit about how compassionate. Jesus was very compassionate with people. He, would feel the pain of others. And having compassion enables us to convey a deep feeling of love and concern so that we can meet people's distresses and struggles and needs. Compassion. And compassion is when something has happened to one of your friends and they're telling you about it and they start to cry and you start to cry because you love them and you feel it. You know them, you feel it. Maybe not as much as they feel it, but you feel that with them. You feel that for them. We want to have compassion with our friends. Enthusiasm. That's getting that joy up to our faces. Enthusiasm enables us to overcome disappointments and setbacks so we can be positive and optimistic even when things are harsh. Enthusiastic. Some of you, I've gotten to spend a little more time with you on Tuesdays in Bible studies. Have you noticed I'm enthusiastic about Bible study? I am crazy for Bible study. I love it. I love it. And I'm enthusiastic about it. It shows. It shows. I am enthusiastic about it. But with our friends, are we enthusiastic with our friends? Are we? Are we like, hey, what are you going to do? And we're going to go paint the furniture, and it's going to be awesome. Maybe somebody is here. Maybe someone here is going to volunteer to go over to Sandy's and help her paint her kitchen cabinets. Hillary? Enthusiasm. Having enthusiasm. Okay. Thoughtfulness. Being thoughtful with your friends. Giving attention and care to others and their feelings first. Thinking about that. Is this the time to have that conversation with them? No matter what it is. They're burdened with something and you got something absolutely wonderful happening in your life and you can't wait to tell them. And that sister's got a burden. Maybe I can wait a couple days. Maybe I'm just going to sit with her and chat. Thoughtfulness. Think about it. Think about the words and how they're going to be received and what that's going to mean to her. Which, she may go, no, tell me about it. I'd rather be happy with you, and that's fine too. That's fine too. Discretion. Did Jesus have discretion? It's keeping our minds and focus on sound judgment, giving serious attention and thought to what is going on. What's going on? To be careful choosing our words and our actions to be right in the situation, having discretion. Avoiding words and actions that could result in adverse consequences. To begin with, when my children were young, I taught them the word appropriate. It's like, we're going to talk about appropriate. Because appropriate means a behavior that you do at this time, you don't do at this time. And for children, that's an important thing. That's an important thing. In our house, I didn't like them screaming in the house. I don't like screaming in the house. It's not appropriate. Go outside, scream outside. When you're in the house, don't scream. I like a quiet house. Everybody's different. I like a quiet house. I don't like a lot of going on. So what is appropriate at one time is not appropriate in another. So valuable for them as they grew, as they became tweens and teens. No, it's okay for you to do it. It's just not appropriate to do it here. Oh, okay. They got that. Having discretion. When do I say this? When do I do this? And having discretion. Like, you ever having a conversation with let's say a couple people. So there's three of you that are talking, you're talking. Could be a meaningless conversation, could be a highly important conversation. Having a conversation. You're talking, and somebody walks into the room talking. And the three of you were like, because they're talking about something completely different, right? You're having a conversation. The discretion is, let me see what's going on here before I jump in. Discretion is knowing when to keep things to yourself. Having discretion. I don't have to share this with everyone. Discretion. Who might it be appropriate for me to share it with? Who is it not appropriate for me to share it with? Knowing the difference. When I should, when I shouldn't. And letting those things be okay. Discretion. Appreciation. This was similar to gratitude. Appreciation towards God gives God our heartfelt thanks as a lifestyle of worship and adoration. And it also allows us to give to and value others with respect, that we appreciate them. And again, as we mentioned earlier, is speaking the words, telling them you appreciate them. And you know what? If you're telling I'll give you a word of advice. That's just what you need, right? Gina's advice. If you're going to tell someone you appreciate them, have it be something specific. There's this guy I used to work with. He told everybody he appreciated him. I appreciate you. He was at the Salvation Army. I appreciate you. I used to work at the Salvation Army. Jeanette works there. And, that's nice. It's nice. But it was like hollow. He said it to everybody. It's like, well, yeah, you're saying that to me. I just heard you saying that to so-and-so. Shh. So if you're going to say I appreciate you, what do you appreciate? What is it you appreciate them for? I appreciate how much you make me laugh all the time. I appreciate how you let me drone on and just listen to my woes. I appreciate that about you. I appreciate how much of an encouragement you are to me. Specifics. It's giving someone a compliment, and it takes their breath away because it's true, and they know it. Okay. We're getting, just a little bit more. We've got a little bit more. Communicating. Jesus communicated very well. He was very clear when he spoke to people, with the caveat that when he did the parables, when he talked in parables, he had there were specific things he was trying to communicate, and he communicated exactly as he meant to. When he communicated, he was like, for you that don't have the veil over your eyes, you're going to understand, but those other people, they ain't going to get it. That's why I'm talking to you in parables. But he communicated exactly what he was trying to communicate. When we communicate with our friends, we're willing to convey thoughts and attitudes and feelings in a kind and listening manner, and to reflect Christ when we're communicating, to not be too harsh and what have you when we're dealing with our friends. And discernment, discipline, we talked about that. Endurance. Jesus certainly demonstrated endurance. The stuff he endured, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. But he did. Because he had a bigger focus, which was God's purpose. It was God's purpose that he was going after. Our souls. For our souls. He had a bigger purpose. But he endured. He endured. And it's the inner strength to remain in God with staying power in order to accomplish God's will. So we're enduring with God, and we endure with our friends. Sometimes it is an endurance with our friends. Sometimes it is. Oh, here she goes again. Myrna. With the stapler. With the giant stapler. And then we can with the stapler. I think I had that stapler so long, I think I moved it up here with us. It was like, oh, Myrna with the stapler. Endurance. Endurance. We can endure with our friends. We talked about flexibility. I want to talk about grace. Grace is, we talked about it a little earlier about how we sometimes think the worst, but then when we actually look into it, we find out that's incorrect, is what they were going. But grace is assuming the best, looking for the best, attributing the best to the situation. Maybe they do have a bad idea or a bad thought of what they're doing, but we're going to give them the grace. We're going to give our friends grace. We're going to say, you know what? I'm going to assume whatever she's doing, she had a perfectly good reason for doing, whether she did or whether she didn't. There's no harm in that. That's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt your friend. So it's a calm that minimizes crudeness. Just give them some grace. Just give them some grace. I knew a gal that lost her husband, and as soon as she did, it was sudden. He wasn't ill or anything. It was an accident. And as soon as she did, she just started doing some weird stuff. She did. She started doing some weird stuff. Posting it on Facebook, weird stuff. And, I felt bad because some fellow believers, took offense at what she was doing. And they were concerned for her. They loved her. They loved her. They love her. They were concerned about what she was doing. But they were attributing, oh, she's doing this, doing that, or whatever. And all I could think to myself was grace. Give that girl some grace. That was a horrible blow to her. Can we just give her some grace for a while and just let her walk it out? Can we just give one another grace? Give our friends grace. Jesus certainly did for us, didn't he?